Hey everybody, we're live, and I am crossing through the Panama Canal as we speak. We rented a private yacht, and we're making the canal transit. I want to show this to you because they're closing the gates. We're just inside the lock right now. Check it out. The lock doors there closing. This is the original canal, not the new side that they built starting in like 2007. So these doors are over 100 years old. This system has been working for more than a century. The Panama Canal completed back in the early 1900s, about 1911 or something like that. And you get to come with me. Check it out. Doors closing. Doors closing. And you see there up top, there's a railing that comes up as the doors close, so that people can walk across there once they're closed. That railing folds down as the doors open. Good morning, everyone. This is the Panama Canal. We're inside the locks with with a big ship and a couple of littler boats going through. It's very dry in Panama, and so they've had to reduce the number of transits that they can do every day. It's gotten much more expensive. They went from almost 40 a day, and now they're down to, I think, 27 a day, because it takes about 55 million gallons of water to run this thing. And because of the drought conditions here in Panama, they are unable to put as many ships through as they would like. So it's just after 6 in the morning here. We had to be at the boat docks before 4 a.m. today. You don't get to choose the time that you go through. You buy your slot, and then Panama tells you when to come through. Yeah, we're on the passage going through the canal. Well, we're here this early because this was the slot that they gave us. You pay for your slot, and then Panama gets to tell you what time your slot has to be. So the doors are closed there now. Now we'll go over here and I'll show you the front. So in front of the boat, we're parked in this lock, and on this side there's a gigantic cargo ship called the CGM Beira, flagged in Valletta. And that is what you call a Panamax. That's a Panamax ship, which is built specifically to fit inside the canal as closely as possible. The maximum size that they can fit inside these locks. The Panama Canal really affected global shipping because of its size constraints, but now the new canal allows even larger ships to come through, and that's off to my left, but we can't see it at the moment. So you can see the water swirling down there. We are coming up slowly, and you can see the train up there. That train thing is connected via cables to the ship, and there's one over on the other side as well. And those guys keep the ship centered, keep it from bouncing off the sides as we go through, as we come through the canal. This process to completely transit the canal takes about 8 hours. I can see the cables stretching taut over there as these operators kind of reel in the ship one side or the other. This is pretty fascinating, isn't it? This is the first time I've had a chance to actually do this from the inside, to actually be in here. I'm gonna go downstairs, this yacht that we're on, and we got a very nice boat here that we've rented. Not cheap. There's Connie. We're doing a live. Try not to trip over everything. Hey, Matt. This is Matt Tomlett. Matt is a world-class fixer here in Panama. He's worked for the likes of National Geographic and Bear Grylls and lots of other very famous people, the Gates family, everything like that. So tell me what we're seeing here.
So we're right now in the first chamber of the Miraflores locks in the Panama Canal. And we're locked in behind this ship. And if you look at the current, the swirling of the water, down below us are a series of big tunnels and pipes where the water is flowing from the chamber in front of us into this chamber and thus lifting us up.
And this is gravity fed, right? This is not
all gravity.
Yeah, so they don't need pumps or anything to do.
There's nothing.
But so it's fed fresh water from lakes in the interior, man-made lakes,
Right.
and then that water then just drains out to sea when it's done. That's part of the inefficiency of this system, right?
Yeah, so each ship that transits this canal uses about 52 million gallons of water is needed, fresh water is needed. And right now the Panama Canal has a serious problem with water. Back in the 1930s, the Americans started a process of expanding the canal because ships were getting bigger and bigger, and they saw the future was going to be limited if they didn't do it. So they did a lot of excavating. They had on plan, when they knew that back then that when they expanded the canal, they had to expand the water source. And they had a plan back then to dam Rio Indio and drain that water into the canal. And so they wound up having to abandon that project because of World War II. And Panama, in turn, in around 2008, somewhere around there, 2005, started they took up the same project.
Yeah, it was 2007 when
2007, yeah, and Panama though didn't expand the water source when they expanded the canal, and and they opened the canal. They finally finished their expanded canal, which we're not in right now, which is right beside us. When they opened it, they opened it in 2016, and so far the water consumption has been a lot more than it used to be. And what's happened is we've gone into a first El Nino cycle since the new expanded canal has been opened. And this has caused El Nino, when El Nino comes, and it comes like every 10 years to Panama, it's a normal natural cycle, and it causes dryness. It's characterized by less rain. And so what's happened is they've been caught with their pants down now, and they have a serious water crisis. And they're blaming it, everyone is blaming this on climate change, which is a complete lie. I mean, it's not even, it's not true.
Yeah, it's just a cyclical thing.
It's just a cyclical thing. The thing is that they have this new locks that's taking millions of gallons of extra water that they didn't have before.
Right. And they can't store water up because, I mean, this thing runs on rain. Exactly. Panama typically gets 12 feet of rain in a year, and so that's a good deal. But in a dry year like this, where they're 3-4 feet short, they don't have like last year we got extra rain. We had 19 feet of rain. but they didn't have any way to store it, so it just dumps out over the floodgates, and it's gone. If they had a way to store that rain, then they could save it up for rainy days or non-rainy days like this, but they haven't done that.
Exactly. So it's real convenient and easy just to pass the buck and say it's climate change, and it's actually an engineering failure
Flaw
that needs to be taken care of, and I do believe Panama, they'll fix it. They'll fix it. It's going to cost a lot of money, and it's going to take a long time, but it's caught. So normally they're running like 39 transits a day between the two locks, right? And because of this problem, they've had to reduce it. It was at 22. We got a little bit of rain out of season in December, and I think they lifted it to 24. I don't know where it's at right now, but that's almost half the number of transits are being allowed. So it's costing Panama millions and millions of dollars.
Right. The canal represents like 40% of the government's revenue here in Panama, and so that impacts any social programs, anything else they've done. And you add to that then the stupid protests that they've had here over the mine and all that, and it's really hurt Panama economically, and it's even reduced their bond rating and things like that. So it's going to make it harder for them to borrow money and more expensive, and that does not bode well for the economy here. Has it ever gotten to the point where they had to shut down the canal because of rainwater?
Yeah, actually in 2010, because of intense flooding, we had a week-long period where there was so much rain, so much water coming into the canal that they actually had to shut it down. In the Chagres River, there was actually a sweeping current going into the canal, and the danger, they had all the gates open on every spillway. They were draining every place they could drain as fast as they could, and the water level was still rising.
Oh, wow.
And the danger is it could flood over the gates, over the walls, and cause
could collapse stuff.
Yes.
That'd be, and the gates that are closed right here behind us, those are 100-year-old gates or more, right?
The original gates.
Yeah.
And those gates are hollow inside, and they're literally floating in the water. So they have always been able to, they would open them with only a small 40 horsepower motor. Was all it took to open and close those gates. Now they've since recently replaced it with like a hydraulic system, but for years, like 100 years, it was just a motor.
Okay, here's a question. Can you read that before it goes away? I don't have my reading glasses on. That's it.
Question: I watched all your Darien Gap coverage, and you didn't say why Chinese migrants wanted to come to USA, and what you mean Chinese, mainland Chinese, Taiwanese.
Well, you've been with me on those. What's the answer to that question?
Why are Chinese migrants coming? So we're seeing a new trend down in the Darien Gap, which has started this year, where there's thousands of Chinese flowing in suddenly, and actually, it's hard to say why.
up to 1,000 a day. Yeah. We've asked them, and the Chinese that we've talked to have said that they're coming because the economy is very bad in China, and we know that's true for sure. What we don't understand is that they have to get permission from the Chinese government in order to leave. So the Chinese government obviously is not going to allow them to leave unless they want them to leave. Now, there was a leaked speech that was given back in 2018 by a Chinese general in which he stated that the Chinese plan to take over America is not to invade America, because that would be too costly with their army. It's just to salt Chinese people into America to the point where they can basically vote the way they want. China is trying to cripple America from the inside out by pumping fentanyl in through our shores as well. So the Chinese are weaponizing the migration against us. They're weaponizing the drugs against us, and they're weaponizing in every way the collection of intelligence against us. So they're full court press against America and Panama, by the way, in trying to collect intelligence through espionage, whether that's corporate, industrial espionage, even cultural espionage through TikTok and that sort of thing, trying to rot the minds of America's youth. And that we know that's true because when you look at TikTok in China, it's like educational, it's uplifting, it's things like that. When you look at TikTok in the United States, it's as degrading and demoralizing and absolutely depraved as anything you can imagine. So they are obviously doing that on purpose. And the people that we talk to coming through, there are many people again who say that they just are looking for freedom, and you can't fault them that. But there are also a lot of people, I even saw some in Canaan Membrillo the other day, who are military age males, very fit, not friendly at all. Not friendly
at all.
And they have snakehead tattoos and things like gang tattoos from the Chinese mafia and even the PLA. We have proven several times that some of these Chinese are active duty members of the Chinese army, the PLA, and those guys are not friendly in the least. So they run the gamut. There are families coming through as well, but suffice it to say, it'd be pretty easy for China to send in a bunch of their soldiers. And I even posted on my Twitter the other day a video of a recent Chinese immigrant who had just gotten to America, military age male, and he was dancing around with a couple of AR-15s he had just purchased and pretending to shoot the camera with them and saying, "I can't believe how easy it was for me to buy these things." So that's concerning for sure. Yeah. And that's the kind of thing that we ought to be jumping up and down on our congressmen's heads until they do something about that. Yeah. So anyway, back to the canal. This thing is tremendously efficient. I mean, these people have been, cracking this nut for a long time. They've been figuring this out for a long time. Yeah. But at the same time, there were these design flaws that are causing them some consternation with the amount of ships to go through. What do ships pay to go through the canal?
Yeah, so some of the bigger ships in the new canal are paying over $1 million for a single transit, which is a lot of money. And in fact,
is that a question?
A record was just, I have to change my glasses. This is so horrifying. Oh, went away. Sorry.
There you go. Was that a question? It should say question in the first word.
Around San Diego. I watched, someone was, no, it's just a statement.
Just a comment,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, if you have a question, folks, put it in all caps, please, and begin it with the word question. So at least
we're both blind.
Yeah, we're both kind of blind. Yeah, my eyesight will get better as the light comes up, because in bright light I can see better than I can in low light, but I don't have my glasses on me right now. Okay, well, I'm going to go back and show you what's behind us. You can see the ship ahead of us now starting to move right there. It's starting to head out, so that means that the doors have opened. And how many locks are there in the canal?
So there's each side of the canal, the Atlantic side and the Pacific side, goes up three
levels.
3 levels,
yeah,
to 80. It's actually, they've raised the level of the lake to 88 feet. It used to be 85 feet.
Oh,
to just so it can contain more water.
Okay.
But at the end of the dry season, this is the problem. The dry season just started, and they started 6.5 feet below full.
Oh, wow.
So it's a very serious concern.
It's like starting a road trip with your car on a third of a tank of gas.
And if the dry season turns out to be a really strong one, who knows what's going to happen. It could be catastrophic for Panama.
Yeah, it could be really bad, and for global shipping.
Right. And there's already been some major shipping lines that have announced that they will no longer be routing through the Panama Canal.
Because it's just too expensive, or it takes too long?
It takes, the waiting list is so long because they've had to reduce the volume that and so this is, and on top of that, compounding things, in Mexico, in other parts in Latin America, they are speedily racing to build
like railroads
to replace the canal and or augment the canal. But this will further take away business from Panama at a time that they don't need to be losing money right now.
Right, I bet. So that's not good, considering they're still paying off the new side of the canal that they built was like $5 billion or something.
Right.
It took
And
them to do that.
Panama might be looking at paying off billions of dollars to a
there's a
mining
question.
company for being in breach of contract. Did China offer to operate the canal at a much cheaper cost for Panama?
Okay, so that's a common misconception. China cannot run the canal. It's in the Constitution of Panama that Panama has to maintain control of the canal. So China is not running the canal. They don't own the canal or anything like that, as you may have heard. That's a rumor. Now, what they do manage are the ports on either side of the canal. There's a Chinese company called Hutchison Whampoa, which has been managing the ports on both sides, the logistics of the ports, for many years, more than 15 years. And they do the day-to-day logistics. They have the databases that keep track of what is in each container that's stored at the canal and that sort of thing. But no, China does not run the canal. It cannot run the canal. Panama would have to change their constitution to allow that to happen. So
another thing that when the Americans gave the canal to Panama, they put in perpetuity a stipend in the treaty that the United States maintains the right to defend the canal should its operation ever be in jeopardy.
Okay, what's this question? Why is our government so blind to allowing
this to happen to our people? This is very dangerous for us. Don't mind the help, but why the hardcore men? Oh, that's probably referring to the Chinese.
Yeah, referring to the Chinese. Of course it is. It's very dangerous. But the Biden administration has thrown open the floodgates, and because of the social welfare programs that are available in the United States, people are coming from communist and socialist countries around the globe whose economies are failing because of socialism, and they're not coming for the freedom necessarily. When you talk to them and you really drill down on it, what they're coming for is the fact that America at this moment is doing socialism better than those socialist countries are, because they still have a base of capitalism, and they still have plenty of our money to spend on these social programs that the migrants can take advantage of. So, of course, that only works until you run out of other people's money, and then it stops working for real and catastrophically. And the millions of migrants coming into the United States to take advantage of our programs are going to cause that collapse to happen faster. So that's our answer to that. Okay, so we're starting to move now, I think. Oh no, not quite.
We're going to.
Okay, I'm going to go back and show you the back of the boat again. Show you aft. There's my beautiful Connie. Gorgeous. And we've got some food here. There's bathrooms, a head. There's Elise, Matt's daughter. She's gorgeous. And there's Jairo, the one and only, the best spear fisherman in all of Panama, right here. He's the man. He is the man. So we'll go up here on the top. Whoop, dale. Gracias. Okay. And I'll show you back behind. And now you can see that we have elevated it to the top of the lock. That's the level we were at just a moment ago. And we're starting to push off here. This tugboat that came through with us is pretty impressive. These things are super powerful and can push those big ships around like it's nothing. They got big rubber bumpers all the way around. You want to know where I'm heading? Well, I'm working on that. It kind of depends. I may soon be heading to Ecuador, or I may soon be heading to Guyana. And I'm kind of waiting for a few things to happen to help me decide where I should go next. So we're moving off of the, oh, there it goes. We're moving off of the tugboat here so he can start moving. Now he's pulling forward. Those are very impressive. I've always been just fascinated by those things. Watch what looks like such a little boat just push around these gigantic ships is really something. Here we go. Come over here.
I guess we're going to chase this ton up the path here. Wow, I still don't know what to think really about.
Pretty fascinating. Question, Chuck, please greet Connie. If you decide to come to Switzerland, you're my guest. Oh, that's fantastic. That's not a question, but thank you very much for the kind words. It's a beautiful sunrise here, about 6:25 in the morning here in Panama. And I'll look back here and see if we had any other. How far behind that ship will you move through the canal? Well, we came right up next to it. We kind of all squeeze in. They try to get as many boats through at a time, you know, as they go through the canal. I'm gonna go over here next to Michael. There's the great Masako Ganaha.
Okay, so you're here
And you're our canal pilot, right? Oh, he's the canal pilot.
This ship is so gorgeous.
Yeah, and you speak English? So how long have you been working as a canal pilot?
Well, I'm not a canal pilot. I am a Panama Canal transit advisor.
Transit advisor. Okay, well that sounds politically correct.
4 years.
4 years, right? Yeah.
But this is my days off job.
Oh, it is.
Normally my position in Panama Canal, I am is a Panama Canal administrator
Oh, okay, okay.
or boarding officer. Basically
But-
the vessels that.
They have to have somebody like you on board every vessel that comes through here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Vessels up to 64 feet.
oh, okay. So, but you know how to drive. You can't trust the guy that owns the boat to do
I
it,
don't
right?
have to drive it. I can trust him. I use
And who's he?
instructions.
Who's he?
The captain.
He's the captain. Ah, okay. So this is your boat. Oh, okay, great. How big is this boat? 50 feet. Oh wow, well, it's beautiful. Thank you for having us today. There's Michael.
Thank you.
Michael Jan.
Hey, Chuck.
Great. How you doing, buddy?
I'm just watching this big ship come through. If you look it up on Marine Tracker, you can see where it came from and the track and where it's going to.
And what have you found out?
Well, so far this is the first lock at Miraflores, well, the Gatun Lake is sort of is relatively low, which is a problem, especially with the problems going over in the Suez Canal on the other
Right.
side. Because between the Suez and the Panama Canal, we're in the Panama Canal. That's a significant portion of world trade goes through this artery or the Suez.
Right. So did you look up that one on Ship Tracker?
I didn't because I've been
Oh, okay. You've been filming?
doing a time lapse.
Uh-huh.
So on this trip, we've got you, thankfully, because you make things go a lot smoother because you know what you're doing. In fact, this is pretty minor for you and the Darien Gap compared to the other stuff you do. And we've got Dr. Chris Martinson and Brett Weinstein and Masako Ganaha, of course, and then several other people, some who wish to be mentioned, wish to not be mentioned.
Notable people.
Notable people who wish to not be mentioned.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So it's really a very interesting trip because there's many interesting conversations to be had. You know, Brett Weinstein, he's on the boat here somewhere.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, he's an expert on bats that do tenting behavior. Bats that make tents out of leaves. so like a tent that you live in, right? You could look that up on YouTube, and Brett's actually an expert on that. And there's a lot of those bats in this country. And Brett actually studied here years ago. I think it was in the 90s.
Out on Barrow, Colorado.
Yep. And so he studied the tent bats, and I mean, this is an ideal place to study those sorts of things. Panama is pretty incredible.
Yeah, hit the like button, folks, and subscribe if you haven't done that, so you can keep watching the stuff that we're doing.
Hola from Panama Canal.
Yeah,
Not just Panama, but Miraflores locks.
yeah, it's really something being through here. It's my first chance to actually do this.
I'm thankful I got a haircut.
Yes, Brett Weinstein of the Dark Horse Podcast. That's correct. We'll go meet him. We'll go find him here. Let's see where he is.
Yes. But I'm not from here. I'm from West.
Uh,
Town is close to the border to Costa Rica. Let me.
Yeah. Can you tell me how long each lock is in meters?
In meters.
Meters, yeah.
Almost 300 meters.
About 300 meters.
250, 260.
260. Yeah, they're not all exactly the same. But so you see we're pulling in pretty close to this ship here because they gotta cram us in so that they can start closing the doors. So now they're closing the doors here on the back. We'll go back here. Here we go.
Check this out.
Again, these are 100-year-old gates, more than 100 years old. The original gates on the canal. This is our second lock. So that's the first lock behind us. We're going into the second set of locks. There's a total of 3 on the Miraflores side, and then 3 more in Pedro Miguel. Will I be reporting on the Pakistan-Iran conflict? Probably not at the moment. I'm going to be doing more about Ecuador, Israel, and Guyana. There they go, closing the second set of locked doors. Now watch up above on the top, and you'll see the railing come popping up as they close. So the railing will come up so that they can walk across. Okay, so the canal is not a sea level canal, Christine. It takes these locks to raise the ships. They have to raise them up a couple hundred feet on one side and raise them, take them back down on the other side. There's a lake in the middle of Panama that's man-made. And so the majority of the canal is actually a giant lake. But to get from sea level to the lake, they have to raise the ships up with these locks. Yeah, like a wide open bathtub. That's right, Susan.
The tides are much higher on the side.
So they're almost closed. And they interlock and hold each other together. These are floating doors. These gates are actually float, so it doesn't take very much force to open and close them. Once they're closed and the water starts filling in, then the force of the water holds them closed. That's why they're kind of at an angle like that. But they're really massive doors, hundreds of tons each. There we go, almost closed. Yeah, boom, there we go. Now watch up on top. We're only going halfway through the locks today, and it's going to take about 7 hours. I'm waiting for the railing to come up on the top of the locks there. That's when you know it's completely locked. Yeah, it's like an elevator for a ship. Watching from Jakarta, from Malaysia. President Carter is the one who gave away the canal to the Panamanians. The Panamanians have actually done a pretty good job of running it. Question, isn't China getting a lot of economic intel if they know each ship's cargo? Absolutely, Stanley. That's a very perceptive question. China is making use. Okay, there the railings are going up. And now you'll see somebody walk across. See that person walking across the locks there. And now the water gets turbulent and we're starting to rise already. We'll go back here and look up front. Let's see if I can. Okay, so see, we're right up against this big cargo ship here. Pretty tight. Look at that. But yes, China, I don't think anybody thought of it when Hutchison Whampoa took over the ports on either side of the canal. I mentioned before that if you've heard the rumor that China took over the canal or owns the canal or runs the canal, that's not true. China does not have, it's not legal for Panama to give up control of the canal to any other entity, and the United States maintains the right to come and defend the canal if they were to try to do that. But it's written into their new constitution that Panama always has to be in charge of running the canal. But China does manage the ports on either end of the canal, and that does give them access to a whole lot of data that undoubtedly the CCP is making use of, using AI and other means to gather intelligence that they can use from an economic or industrial espionage standpoint. And that is a concern, no question. So we're going to go up front here. We'll talk to Brett for a minute. Hey, Brett, can you talk to me for a minute? Sure. We're live on the Hot Zone here, YouTube. Tell me about why you came to Panama and what you've seen since you've been here.
I came to Panama to find out what's going on with the migration that is obviously coming up from South America. Needed to see it with my own eyes because nothing I hear about it makes any sense. And we're now here in the Panama Canal, which although I lived in the Panama Canal for 18 months, I never went through the locks. So it's fascinating for me to experience it. It's shocking how much Panama has changed, and it's obviously in real jeopardy, as are I think all of the countries in Central America and the United States, frankly.
What are your thoughts about what you learned going up the river in the Darien Gap and seeing the migrants?
That it's amazing that such a tectonic shift of population is happening without most of the people affected by that migration being aware of it. And I don't understand the motivations of the folks who are obviously encouraging it. But the fact that it is taking place has consequences for all of us. It's obviously a tragedy for the migrants, and we all ought to be thinking very carefully about whether this is desirable. It's hard to imagine how it could be from the point of view of the countries that will absorb these folks who are undoubtedly many of them simply hardworking people looking for a better life, but when you're not checking who's coming into the country, certainly folks will have noticed the vulnerability and taken advantage of it. So I can't imagine why we're not talking about this.
Yeah. So you'll go home and you'll talk a lot more about that, I'm sure, with your platform as well. How can people find more about you if they want to find your
Dark Horse Podcast, which you can find anywhere. Find us on Rumble. Look me up on Twitter at Brett Weinstein with 1 T. Brett has 1 T. Check out Heather's Substack. I'm sure she will discuss this at national selections. Anyway, yeah, it's been mind-blowing to see it.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Okay, so we are about halfway up here. You can see this gigantic ship in front of us. These things really are massive when you get up close to them. I mean, look at the rudder down here. Look at the size of that underneath the boat there. They go through the canal under their own steam, but they get help from these train-looking things up here that you can see the cables connected to the ship. That just keeps them from bouncing off the sides of the canal left and right, so that they don't scuff up the ship or the side of the canal. And these little trains move along tracks and follow the ships as they come through the actual locks. But like I said, most of the canal is not made up of a channel this narrow. It's not made up of locks like this. Most of the canal is a giant lake in the center of the country. You can see now here, we are approaching the top. Almost to the top of the second set of locks at Miraflores. We are, Miraflores is the first set of locks as you come in from the Pacific side through Panama City. And we're heading north toward the Caribbean. Most people think that the Panama Canal goes east-west from the Pacific Ocean to the Atlantic Ocean or to the Caribbean. That's actually not true. If you look on a map, you'll see that the canal actually goes north-south, because Panama actually goes east-west. I'm gonna go look over here at the tugboat. These are my favorite. Kind of noisy though, as they're tied to us here so we don't bounce around. They got these thick rubber bumpers on them. Well, we're not moving right now, GMS. Well, he says, what's the speed of the ship? We're not moving at the moment. We're just idling inside the lock, and we're waiting for the doors to open so that we can move forward into the next set. Let's talk to Jairo for a minute. How's it going?
Everything good, my friend.
This is my good friend Jairo. Jairo is one of the most impressive human beings on God's green earth. And he's Panamanian.
I am, yes.
Lived here your whole life. You have your own boat, but you've never taken your boat through the canal before, have you?
No, but I will.
Okay, so Jairo is a spear fisherman. And he goes out, he grabs a spear, disappears underwater for like 5 minutes. I don't know how you hold your breath like that. That's crazy. And then comes up with a fish that's bigger than he is and throws it in the boat, and then goes down and does it again and again and again and again, and then sells those fish to local restaurants and stuff. What got you started doing that, Jairo?
So I started to hunt When I was 6 years old, my dad taught me to hunt, and that got into my veins right away. And then I lived in the interior of the country for 6 years, between 6 and 12 years old. And I had an uncle who would take me to work with his cows every weekend. And little by little, I started to love the nature, to be in the woods, to be in the outdoors. And then when I was 20 years old, I started to spearfishing. I started to dive. And because I already had a lot of hunting skills, getting adapted to be a hunter in the water was easy for me. So I've been doing that for over 30 years now, and that's my passion. And I hope I can do that until the day, the last day I live.
Well, if you're not careful, it might be the reason it's the last day that you live. It's a pretty dangerous thing to do.
It is.
That it's a lot of fun to go out with him and go fishing.
Thank you.
And his wife Oni makes the most unbelievable sashimi that you've ever eaten in your whole life.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. His wife Oni is Israeli. So I'm going to turn this around. It's a beautiful sunrise. And that is Ancon Hill straight ahead, that low mountain off in the distance. It's called Ancon Hill. That used to be part of the U.S. Canal Zone that we turned over in the year 2000. They want me to do a live of you diving in and shooting a fish.
Yeah, sure.
Can you jump in here and get one?
No, here. The water here is you won't see nothing here.
Oh, of course, it's turbid.
Yeah.
But have you ever fished in the lake, in the Gatun Lake?
I have in the Chagres River.
In the Chagres.
Yes, and there
spearfish.
Yes, I have, but that river has some huge crocs. Like
crocs.
Yes, like crocodiles, like dinosaurs.
Do you shoot them?
No, you don't mess with them.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So, and I heard that Jacques Cousteau's son got eaten by a shark in the Chagres. Hammerhead.
Really?
Yeah, right in front of Fort San Lorenzo.
Wow.
Yeah, like years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, it is amazing.
Yeah.
All right, so we're almost at the very top. You see here, we're now up above that second level. So the farthest water you can see out there is at sea level. Each one of these locks brings us up about, 30, 40 feet. So we're now about 80 feet above sea level. And looks like shortly, okay, let's do it. Go get him and we'll do it. Or tell me, just yell, tell me. Okay. Okay, we're gonna watch as this ship starts to move. And I want you to see this train thing here. See how that works? Okay, this over here is the museum and viewing station where you can come and watch ships go through the canal if you come here as a tourist.
All right, Matt.
Okay.
Try to do it in a way that's a sign.
Are you live right now?
Yeah, I'm live.
Wow.
Elise is going to take a picture. Yeah, hit that like button. Okay, we're going to take a picture with me and Jairo and Matt.
What's live?
That's okay, there's like 500 people watching. Take your time.
They're all asleep.
Thank you, Elise.
Thank you so much.
So, Elise, come here. Let's see here. All right, come over here where we can get away from the noise a little bit. This is Elise Tomlin, and she's actually Panamanian, if you can believe that. You've lived in Panama all your life. How is it?
I love it. I was born here, so I haven't really lived anywhere else besides Panama, so this is what I'm used to. It feels like home to me. So, more than the States.
But you're also American.
I'm also American.
Tell me about, explain what a Zonian is.
Okay, so technically I wouldn't be under the category of a Zodian, but my dad and my mother were both Zodians.
What are they?
So they grew up of like homes, schools, everything was like a mini U.S. but in Panama. So you can kind of imagine what that would look like. Everything was well maintained, well kept. Everyone spoke English. You did not need to speak Spanish or anything. And yeah, that's what they grew up with. But in a tropical country in Panama.
Okay, but when the United States turned the canal back over to the Panamanians, and that stopped being an American enclave, now you were born after that, so you were born what, like 5 years ago? What? No, how old are you?
That's highly, highly offensive what you just said, that they turned the canal back over to Panama.
Is that-
To Azonian.
So tell me about that. Tell me about that.
The United States gave the canal to Panama.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's the correct way to say it.
Because we built it. Now, do you think that was a good idea?
Well, all the Americans were deeply lamented that when it happened. Probably it was something that had to happen over time. It was unavoidable, really, when you look at the reality. And to be honest, Panama is doing a good job at running it. They really are. And they have this water situation they have to fix, but they've done they're very professional in running it now.
Good. Okay, so here goes. The ship's starting to move here. Move over here. And before I show you, before we lose it, I want you to look over there. This is the new canal. That's the other side that they built starting in 2007 until like 2016. And they can put ships through there that are much larger than the ships that can come through the old side. We're very constrained in the size here over on this side, but look at the size of that ship over there. That is massive.
And that ship paid $1 million to cross the canal.
It costs $1 million to get through.
$1 million, yes, sir.
Wow. Well, hopefully they can afford it. Let's see it over here. Isn't this cool? Hit the like button, folks. Make sure you hit that like button, and YouTube will show it to more people. It is, somebody asked what time it is. It's 6:51 in the morning here in Panama. How deep is the canal? Well, that depends. Like right where we are at the moment, the canal is probably 50 feet deep inside the locks when the locks are full. When the locks are not full, it's probably about 20 feet deep. So something like that. Of course, we're about to go, across to the second set of locks that they call the Pedro Miguel locks. And between here and there, it's probably quite a bit deeper, maybe 100 feet. And then when you get into the lake called Lago Gatun, which is the main part of the canal in the middle of the country, then it's much, much deeper. Could be hundreds of feet deep. They have gigantic dredgers that dredge the canal on a constant basis. They're constantly pulling muck and mud out. And that's just a process of maintenance, right? The U.S., President Carter agreed in the 1970s to give the canal to Panama, and the transfer took place on January 1st, 2000. But again, the United States maintained the right to defend the canal if it decided it needed to be defended. So the U.S. would not allow China, for example, to take over the canal. Oh, see, now you see his engine starting up there. Now he's going to proceed under his own power. to the next set of locks at Pedro Miguel. So it's taken just about an hour to go through the first set of locks. 55 minutes since we first entered the first lock at Miraflores, here at Miraflores. Isle of Wight, England. Amazing. I don't know how big the Sioux locks are in Michigan, Terry, so I couldn't compare those two. That sounds like a Google question to me. Yeah, that is kind of interesting. You can see up underneath the ship like that. Renee. Oh, there goes the tugboat. There's the captain. What's that?
Can you explain how the ship pilots work here?
Yeah. So again, every ship that goes through here has to have a Panama Canal pilot on board piloting the ship while it's in the canal. So the captain of the ship has to relinquish control of his ship to a Panama Canal pilot for the time that the ship remains inside the canal. And that's pretty common with any canal around the world. That's how it works. What a beautiful day it is here. It's about 75 degrees, light breeze, very comfortable this morning. Again, it's just about 7 o'clock in the morning now.
I don't even know what the tide fluctuations here is as high as 20 feet, and on the Atlantic side it's only like 18 inches on
Joseph, does the USA have the right to defend the other canal? I'm not sure what other canal you're talking about. Can you specify which canal you mean? Will you be heading to the U.S. border to complete the story of the migrants? No, probably not anytime real soon, because I'm probably going to be going to Ecuador or Guyana next. There goes the tugboat. It's obviously a heck of a lot warmer here than it is most places in the United States right now, so I'm glad to be here. This is a very costly endeavor actually for us. This boat that we're on, this yacht, you have to pay by weight coming through, weight and length coming through the canal. And to charter this boat for half a day to go halfway through the canal cost almost $6,000. But we have some very generous benefactors who help to cover the cost. How wide is the canal? Well, right here, you know how wide it is? Okay, so we were very close to that ship because we were inside the locks. But now the locks have opened and that ship is taking off to head up to the next set of locks, which is at Pedro Miguel. So we spread out for safety between the locks, and then we kind of cram in to get as much tonnage into the locks at a time as possible. So again, this is not a sea level canal. They have to raise the ships up a couple hundred feet, and then they cross across the center of the country in a lake, and then go back down a couple hundred feet to sea level on the other side. It would have been very difficult to make this a sea level canal because the sea levels on either side are actually a little bit different. Oop. It is amazing here, Terry. We are in Panama on the Panama Canal. We're just doing a tour through the locks at the Panama Canal for half a day today. We had to get started at 3 o'clock this morning to get on the road, to get on the manifest here. Yeah, there is a road that runs along the canal, Ron, and they do transport some things that way. There's also a rail line. So the way it works is that every ship that goes through the canal wants to do so as efficiently as possible because it's very expensive to go through. Oh, somebody had asked if military ships come through here. Yes, they do. Even submarines come through here on a regular basis. But the ships that come through for commercial, they want to be as full as they can be because it's so expensive to come through. So if they're only partially full, they're not going to pay the money to come through the canal because you don't want to move dead weight or empty space through the canal and have to pay for it. So what they'll do is they will park offshore, and then other ships will come and they'll collect up containers from those ships that have some containers that need to go through until they get their ship completely full, and then they will take their ship through to the other side. And if a ship comes and it only has a few, oh yeah, I saw it. If a ship comes through and let's say it only has a few containers that need to go, sometimes it's quicker and cheaper for them to take those containers off the ship and to put them on the train that goes across to the other side and put them on another ship on the other side. So there are various options for them. You see here that we're at the end of the Miraflores locks. We'll go look back on this sunrise. Matt, do you know how wide the canal is?
It's 110 feet wide.
110 feet wide. So it's 110 feet wide here. The prices, Denise, have gone up to go through the canal. Some ships will pay upwards of $1 million to go through. There you go, Terry. You Googled it. Good for you.
There are some places that Chancery has been wiped out.
Yeah, one paid $4 million to jump the line.
They will recover.
That was a record.
If we take some regulations.
So there we go. We're saying goodbye now to the Miraflores locks on the Pacific side of the Panama Canal, where Panama City is. Panama City is just off over that direction, over there. Has anyone ever swam the channel? Yes, one guy did it years ago, I think maybe in the 1950s, but they made him pay, just like they do everybody else, by weight and by length, and he had to pay, I think, $5 to go through the canal, something like that. So look over here, somebody was asking about a road going by. There's a road right off over there. So you can see the truck driving along the road.
Encourage you to come and visit
but this is in between the locks. So the new set of locks they've started building in 2007 is on the other side of that road. Yes, sweet koala Connie is with me. It's 7:04 in the morning, and the sun just came up, and it's already 10 degrees warmer than it was half an hour ago. Okay, there's Brett Weinstein. There's my lovely wife. What do you think, Connie? Is this fun?
I have wanted to do this since we moved here.
I can't hear you.
I said I have wanted to do this since I moved here.
We've been here 11 years, so we finally got around to it.
I mean, growing up on the Mississippi, I've been to the locks and the speedboat, but that was 50 years ago. I've been through locks before, but this is next level.
Yeah, Panama is on Eastern Standard Time for half the year and is on Central Standard Time for half the year because we don't do daylight savings here.
The sun rises and sets about the same time all year long.
Brett, that's the big lock.
So see, it's opening up here. Where does the money go that's paid to transition? It goes to the Panamanian government. The revenues from the canal normally represent about 40% of Panama's total receipts for its government. Is the Panama Canal the same as the Suez Canal? No, I think the Suez Canal is a straight sea level canal, so there are no locks that they have to go through. So they just drive right through.
Give a little plug for Matt's paintings now that they know who Matt is.
Yeah, so, hey Matt, do you have a picture of one of your paintings?
They'll see it when we go to Magoo.
Yep. So there's the gigantic, super extra Panamax ship that's moving through the third lane. That's the new side of the canal that they built just a few years ago. Look at all the containers on that ship. That is massive. That's like a floating city over there. And
Wow, that is a pig.
That
My
is
screen's so
insane.
dark. I
I love it.
yeah, juice it up so we can see it,
That's
Matt.
one of my favorites. Here, Chuck.
So Matt here is one of Panama's premier painters, artists.
You're making
And,
me blush.
no, really, explain this.
I've done a lot of paintings of the canal over the years.
Look at
And
that. It looks
Matt's
like a
paintings hang in the presidential palace, in the U.S. Embassy here, and all over Panama. Very highly sought after. Where can people find your paintings if they want to see more of them?
I am on Instagram, Matthew Tomlet. Actually, my name.
Like omelet with a T?
My exact name. Nobody else has it.
Omelet with a T.
MATTHEWTOMLET.
Yep.
His birds are fantastic.
You guys are
Yeah. Oh,
too kind.
he paints like a photograph.
If you are anybody in Panama, you have an original Matt Tomlin
You guys are
painting
making me
hanging on your
blush.
wall.
No, he really is an amazing artist.
Thank you guys.
I just want to show you that again. That is a massive ship. Look at the size of that thing. See, that ship wouldn't fit through over here where we are. Wouldn't fit through that 110-foot wide canal. And so they built this new canal, the new lane, they call it the third lane over there, to handle much bigger ships. But they also did it in a more modern fashion that saves water, so it doesn't use as much water as the old side does. But if you think about that, this canal has been here for more than 100 years. Yeah, it's moving. It's moving along with us. They don't worry a whole lot about water pollution because they get so much rain here that it washes out to sea. But this water is actually pretty clean. They get the water for most of Panama, the drinking water for most of Panama comes from this canal. So if you live in Panama City, you're drinking water out of this canal every day. And the tap water in Panama is safe to drink. We drink our tap water all the time. Look at the size of Brett's camera. You're not compensating there, are you?
No, nothing like that. Hung like a horse.
What size lens is that?
That is a 200 to 600.
2 to 600.
Yeah.
Yeah, f what?
6.3.
6.3.
It's great, but
Well, out here it's fine.
yeah.
Canon? Is that a Sony lens or Sony lens?
Brett actually worked on Barrow, Colorado Island, which is run by the Smithsonian, and it's a really fascinating. It used to be actually a hilltop, and when the Americans in the early 1900s flooded, dammed the Chagres River and created Gatun Lake, the water rose all around this island, this hilltop, and formed a really big island. And it's a perfectly preserved microcosm of really dense, intense rainforest. And the Smithsonian, the Americans actually own this island, and they use it for scientific research, studying rainforest and everything in the rainforest.
There's a organization here called the Smithsonian Tropical Research Institute, and they've been around here forever. But they do a great job. I mean, they have some very serious people working here. What kind of discoveries have they made? Do you know of any?
Well, Brett could better tell you, but we were talking in the car this morning. I am not a scientist, so please forgive me. But he was telling me how I told Brett a story how I went up into the jungle behind my house. Every time I eat an avocado or a lemon, I stick the seed in a pot, one of my wife's pots out front, and they all sprout, and I have nowhere to put them and nothing to do with them. So last year I went up into the jungle with all these beautiful lemon trees, avocado trees, and a whole bunch of plants actually. And I planted them all up there thinking, well, I guess they'll make it here. I mean, and within a month, all the avocado trees were stripped down, bitten into. The lemon trees were stripped by red ants. There was nothing left of them. They're all dead anyway. And Brett told me...
So you're as good of a gardener as I am.
Yeah. But Brett was telling me that in these tropical rainforests, you can never introduce, in a natural tropical rainforest, you can never introduce an invasive species that doesn't belong to that ecosystem, because it will be killed off. The competition for life is so fierce and adapted for what they do there that nothing else can be introduced. Now, if a human introduces something and tends to it and fights its competition for it, then certain species can live. But in a natural setting, everything dies.
Wow.
Which I thought was very interesting.
Do you think there could be people smuggled on the container ships across the canal? There could be. I don't know why that's smuggling in that direction is not really a thing. There are plenty of drugs probably, and maybe even illicit oil or weapons.
They've had some very high-profile drug busts at the ports on either end of the canal over the years, where they've gotten containers full of drugs on several occasions. Yeah, no doubt anything can happen. That's for sure.
Look over here. There comes that giant ship again. That thing is large. Look at that.
Are you alive?
Man, I need to take a screenshot of that one. Jeez. Look at that.
Yeah, piloting that is a stressful.
Yeah, can you imagine driving that thing?
Wrong way, what'd you get?
People trafficking on the ship? No, I don't think so. It's not really a thing. I've never heard of them doing that here. Can I ask you a question, Brett, about STRI?
Sure.
The Smithsonian Tropical Research. You work for them, right?
Yeah, I
you
didn't work for them. I worked with them.
With them. What?
Yeah, we call it STRI.
What kind of things do they do? What are they here for?
STRI is here because when the canal was filled in 1913, a biologist, may have been Barber, realized that it was going to create a tremendous experiment because it was going to isolate these former hilltops as islands, and that we could study the biological contents of those islands in isolation from the influences of what was going on the mainland. And so the best understood piece of tropical forest in the world is right here in the canal on Barrow, Colorado Island. And when I say it's the best understood, I mean we still don't understand it at all. But anyway, we've done the most systematic job of monitoring it. So it was the right place to be. And STRI now has a marine division. It studies all kinds of things. But the fact that it's here in Panama has a lot to do with the filling of the canal, isolating one particular hilltop, which created a great biological opportunity.
Lots of monkeys out there and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, there were 5 species of monkeys in theory on BCI. When I was there, one of them hadn't been seen in a very long time. The night monkey probably had gone extinct on the island.
Okay.
But there were 4 others. Capybaras. There are all kinds of creatures out there.
And what did you study?
I studied tent-making bats.
Tent-making bats.
Tent-making bats.
They're not vampire bats.
Oh no.
Fruit bats?
Although it's funny, many of the fruit bats, all of the tent makers are fruit bats. Many of the fruit bats are named as if they were vampires because the European scientists who first encountered them were so freaked out about the concept of vampires that they assumed that all of the bats that
they were all bloodsuckers.
Yeah, they were all bloodsuckers is what they thought. Yeah.
Okay, we're coming up with Pedro Miguel locks. Thank you, Brett. This is fun, isn't it, folks?
Dr. Martinson is talking with our...
Does this cargo ship go to the open sea? Yes, they do. I'm not on a cargo ship, but the one up ahead of us there definitely traveled from somewhere. Actually, we need to Google where that thing came from, because you can go to, there's a ship tracker website that you can go to see where these ships come from, what kind of stuff they carry, and where they're going to. And you can track them in real time. That bridge that's up ahead is called the Centenario Bridge. That's the second bridge that was built across the Panama Canal years ago. Big suspension bridge.
Why are they laughing?
Rex, the canal depth varies depending on where you are. So like where we are right here. How deep? Here, I'll ask the ship captain here. Sir, can you tell me how deep the water is? Uh-huh.
We have 51 feet.
51 feet. Oh, there's the depth finder right there.
Si yo no vengo a trabajar sobre tiempo, me van a meter preso a mí o van a meter presa a mi esposa. Yo como así.
52 feet. Folks, if you like the reporting that you're seeing, please go to chuckholton.com and subscribe over there, or you can subscribe here. We use your donations to help people that we meet along the way, and we put up lots of other content on the chuckholton.com site over there on locals, like articles and my documentaries, books, things like that. You can follow all my reporting over there for all the various different networks that I work for. I go back downstairs. Let's see. I'm glad you subscribed to CBN. Thank you for doing that. We go over and look at this gigantic ship that's going along next to us. He's going a little faster than we are. And he's up higher than we are, it looks like. Well, no, maybe it's just that he's a lot taller than we are. Can't see the water over there because of that berm that's between us. So that's the new lane of the canal that they built. I was here when they started construction on that. And right there, you see those terraces in the side of the hillside there? Where the canal now is, there used to actually be a mountain between us and them. And back in 2007, when they started construction of the new canal, there was a mountain twice as tall as that or more as what's there now. And they started the new construction of the canal by blowing the top off the mountain with 10,000 pounds of TNT. It was a sight to behold. It was very spectacular. And I was here for it. There was another mountain right there. So you wouldn't have been able to see this hilltop right there back then because there was a mountain in the way. Well, thank you, Stanley. I haven't reported from my bathroom anytime lately. Thank you for subscribing, for hitting that like button, folks. Really appreciate it. Oh, we got another one. I need a drink of water.
Water.
Yeah, that's right.
Water? Agua fría.
Was the explosion videoed? Yes, I have it on video from 2007. Maybe I'll get my son to post the story that I made about it back then that has the explosion on it. It was pretty spectacular. So we're coming now into the Pedro Miguel locks. That's the second set of locks coming from the... Oh, look at this. Look how they skim along the water like that. Yeah, right. That's Keith. Keith, you're right about that. The crossings of the Panama Canal have been decreased from 39 to the mid-20s at this point. Fred, let me recap. We are transiting the Panama Canal today. It's about 7:20 in the morning here in Panama. We're on a chartered yacht. And again, the number of crossings through the canal has declined and the prices have gone up because we're in a drought condition here. So instead of 40 crossings a day, they do more like 25 or something at this point. Did I have the group with me when I showed the camps and buses illegal immigration? Yes. This group that we're with has been here for several days. We took them down to the Darien Gap to see the migration crisis. And today we're transiting the Panama Canal to see the problem, the news about the canal. Let's see. Question, do you need to take malaria pills in Panama like we did in Vietnam? No, you don't. Stanley, I have lived here for 11 years full-time, one other year before that, and I traveled here in the military 3 times, twice for training and once for the invasion of Panama. And I've never taken malaria pills as a civilian. When I was here in the military, we had to take mefloquine for malaria, because we were sleeping in the jungle and patrolling in the jungle, going through the Jungle Warfare Training Center that used to exist over on the canals, on the Colon side, the Caribbean side of the canal. Here's that other ship over there, a big massive one. That's a lot of containers. Look at that thing. giant floating building. Yeah, we've gotten to see some pretty cool things together, haven't we? We've only been doing this for a couple of months. This is my life, folks. Stick with me and we'll see great things. That's what I told Connie when I tried to get her to marry me. It worked. I'm a good salesman. Ron, have we seen any cruise ships on the canal today? Yes, we saw a Princess Cruise Line ship. Early this morning, about 4 o'clock this morning, as we were just entering the canal on the Pacific side, we passed a giant Princess Cruise Line ship. I did get the girl. I don't have any brothers, sorry. Hey, babe, would you give me a drink?
What do you want, water?
Anything.
Okay.
That ship ahead of us is what's known as a Panamax cargo ship. That's why it is shaped the way that it is. It's literally built to basically be as wide as possible and still fit in the old side of the Panama Canal. Because, you know, for many years, that was the only... here, I'll turn that around. For many years, that was the only way that you could get through the canal. A ship any bigger than the canal just would have to go around. Now that they've built the third lane over there, then you got giant ships like that big one. Giant ships can go through now, but that's a very recent invention. So the Panamax ships, like that one over my shoulder, were kind of the standard for size for a long time. But of course now that's not an issue as much anymore. So I think we're gonna go ahead and end it. We've been going for over an hour. I may do another live at some point over at CBN's website. So if you want to go to CBN News here on YouTube, subscribe over there. I'll probably be doing a similar live over there a little bit later. So we're gonna grab a bite to eat, and I'm gonna rest my voice a little bit, and hopefully we'll see you soon. I wanted to mention one thing though. You may remember that we have several trips going to Armenia this year, tours that you can join us. We filled them up completely, and so we had to shut them off. Well, now we've had a few cancellations, and so we have some room on our Armenia trip for May 3rd through the 13th and June 13th through the 23rd. May 3rd through the 13th and June 13th to the 23rd. You could, if you get a message to me quick on my email, we'll send you more information about that if you're interested in joining us. Armenia is an absolutely magical place. You won't want to miss it. It should be on the top of everybody's bucket list, and it's an unknown place. I mean, people just don't know about it. But as we've been taking people out there, they say it's the most amazing place they've ever seen. And that's why we've started doing these tours. So if you want to join us, get a hold of me, hotzoneholton@gmail.com. Just send me an email, hotzoneholton@gmail.com. And then we have one other trip that's also planned to Armenia that's specifically for hikers. If you want to go backpacking and do a couple of short camping trips on the in the wilderness in Armenia, it's going to be a massive adventure, but it's going to be a little strenuous, so you need to be in pretty good shape for that one. My son's going to run that trip, and that's in May as well, like the May 13th through the 23rd. You can do it in conjunction with one of the other tours if you want to do both and save the airfare going back and forth. But basically, they're all inclusive. All of the trips are. You just get yourself to Armenia, and then we take care of everything once you're there. Lodging, food, transportation, tour guides, everything, translators, all that. And we have a fantastic time. So if you want to travel with me and Connie this year, get signed up for those trips. We do have just about 3 or 4 spaces open on the May trip and the June trip. So let us know. All right. God bless you. Thank you very much. We'll see you later. Take care.